Welcome to Elgin Community College's Oral History Project.
Hi, I'm Polly Nash.
And I'm Jack Weiss. We'd like to welcome you to an overview of Elgin Community College's Oral History Project. After the Book of History was completed as part of the college's 60th anniversary, we realized that the stories of those individuals who made important contributions to the college had not yet been told in their own voices.
So we set out to accomplish the goal of conducting oral history interviews under the auspices of the Learning Resources. We had the support and encouragement of the Associate Dean of Learning Resources, Jerry McKay, and Professor Armando Trejo, who oversees the college's archives.
Our long-term purpose is to provide archival access to the images and voices of individuals who are important to the college's history as they recall and reflect on their years with Elgin Community College. Polly conducted the interviews, and I was the videographer and final editor.
Over the course of 2016, we conducted 8 interviews with individuals who spanned the history of ECC from its beginning as a freestanding college to this point in time. These individuals recall some of the unique aspects of our college, from the broad skills and wide-ranging abilities of our founding Board of Trustees to the curriculum changes necessary to meet the diverse needs of our students.
Overall, they will share with you just some of the factors that have made ECC the vibrant institution that it is today.
In this interview, you'll be introduced to and hear snippets from these 8 leaders. First, we'll listen to Bud Wilson, who explains the history of the college when it began as part of the public schools to the time of divestment from U46 to create a freestanding community college. So there came a time when the state of Illinois started thinking about and planning for a community college system that would be part of higher education.
And when that came about, it was necessary then to continue to be Elgin Community College, but to move it from our jurisdiction as the local district into its own freestanding board, taxing capability kind of a system.
What kinds of things were involved in that whole divestment process?
It was as neat as it could be. There were never any complications. The college had already expanded besides its space in Renner Hall, had other properties that they were renting, and they ran themselves quite well. We simply went through the motions of divesting and creating the board, but also had a strong interest in how that board, who it would be and how it would function. That sounds like king-making, but it's not really, it's caring. So it was important, we think, to have a slate and set out to bring that about.
That was the college's founding board.
The college's founding board.
Exactly.
Our next speaker is Harry Blizzard, who is a member of the founding Board of Trustees and who describes the incredible diversity of the members of this important board.
You ran as a slate.
Yes, we did.
And there were, I think, 22 people running for the board.
Oh yeah, I thought it was even more than that, but it was a good number. It was a real contest.
I have a picture
Yes.
of the founding board, and I wondered if you might talk about each of those individuals.
Well, yes, I did not really know any of these people until I knew of them, but first of all, there's Bob Hoffer here. And Bob, of course, was a dynamo and really the number one philanthropist in the city, and he just is.
And he had a company.
Hoffer Plastics, which is a huge employer down in South Elgin. And then there was John Eshelman. John and I are the only ones that are still alive. He was a banker, worked for First National Bank and other things. He's a fine man. Next is Richard Gromer. Dick Gromer, for those who have been around a long time, had a supermarket, grocery store growers out in the West, and he had 6 others until things didn't go so good for him. And then next was Joe McCarthy as an attorney who became a judge. He's just a delightful guy. And then next then was Paul Bolger. Paul was a union official for the Carpenters Union of Fox Valley. And he was just a great guy. And then Frida Simon. Frida was Dr. Simon's wife, and she knew everybody. And actually, she's the one that worked and was probably most successful in getting us elected.
Perhaps no other person is more revered by ECC than its first president, Mr. Gil Renner. Ray Eberhardt, who began teaching English in 1960, reflects on Mr. Renner's relationship with faculty and students. When you first went full-time for the college, did you have any mentors, people who really took you under their wing and said, come on, Ray, let's help you out?
Not really. All we had was Gil, and Gil was such a lovable guy. He thought a lot about his students. He was very positive. He was the perfect person to get this college going. And everybody worked well with him.
During its first 15 years, the college grew from classes taught in Elgin High School to classes taught in 18 different locations throughout downtown Elgin. Students commuted from all over the northwestern suburbs. Henry Peddle describes some of the logistical challenges of a downtown campus.
We followed a lot of the activities, if you will, that the high school followed. For example, the high school had book rental. ECC at first had book rental. Erica
the
Varick
students did not buy their books, they would rent them.
They would rent them. And Erica Varick had one closet with all the books for ECC at that time.
And she was...
She was the Gil Renner's secretary.
Right.
But, we all wore a lot of hats.
Right. And when you started, were all the students just coming from Elgin?
No. Before we had our own college district, we were drawing students from Waukegan and Rockford and Aurora and Mount Prospect and Roselle, all over the place.
Before we moved to the new campus, the students often had to move from one class to another in an actual different part of Elgin City. And
they couldn't, they had to figure the logistics.
Right.
The students had problems. I think the biggest problems sometimes were parking. It was all meter parking around there. The kids found that they could take the little round tabs from POP and they would trigger the meter, but in order to clear it, there's a little thing you could see what was in there, the last coin. They'd throw a nickel or something in there, but they would get parking when they went to the Social Science Center. Or they would have an Ackerman's bag and put it in the back of the car and pull into Ackerman's parking lot for an hour for their class at the Social Science Center.
Hired in 1968 to teach drafting in the watch college of the former Elgin Watch Factory, Jim Kimmey describes the move to the new Spartan Drive campus. He also reflects on the challenges of all occupational programs as he portrays the evolution of his program from paper and pencil to computer-aided design, which led to national recognition in 1984.
Tell me what the teaching environment was like at the Elgin Watch College.
We had the drafting tables. We went out and we bought new drafting tables and drafting machines and everything else. And there was enough room. The rooms were fairly big.
Talk to me about computer-aided design.
Okay.
And your vision for that and how that all moved from drafting to computer-aided design.
Right. a fellow by the name of Rick Cox, who had been one of my students, and I happened to go to a conference and was put on by Computer Vision. And so anyway, after they made their presentation, I went up to the salesman and I said, "Do you ever donate systems?" And he laughed at me. About 2 weeks later, I get a call from him, and he said, "Do you want a system?" And I said, "Yes. What do I do?" I remember Computer Vision coming, we all sitting around the table, talking about what we would do with the system, where we'd get the students from, and so forth. And that's when that proposal for 1980 was written. And a little later, then we did get the system in, they installed it. Our obligation was maintenance, and to provide, it had to have special electricity and air conditioning and everything. We provided that. And our only money obligation was the maintenance agreement, and everything was free. I don't know, estimates range from about $700,000 to $1 million worth of hardware and software.
At that time?
At that time, yes. And then lo and behold, we won that award. It was a very nice award, and it, of course, directly came from the U.S. Office of Education.
Our next narrator, Tom Youngren, depicts the challenges the English department faced with students who came with increasingly diverse writing skills and a curriculum that had only one developmental writing course.
So can you talk a little bit about the developmental courses? What was the English sequence like when you came in 71?
There was only one course.
There was one developmental course.
Right. And seeing this influx of students who were less well prepared, lots more students coming to community colleges, we felt we had to create other levels, eventually 3 in developmental courses, and also to control placement and enrollment in English 101 and English 102 at the other 2 levels of the sequence. But we fought a big battle to get and then to retain first, more developmental courses in the sequence because we're having less well-prepared students coming to the college, and to get placement through reading placement exams. Again, a holistic assessment. To have some both investment and some guarantee that the students were in an appropriate cohort for the curriculum they were getting. That was a long battle to get it, and it was a long battle to retain over a period of time.
Harry Domschke, who was hired in 1966, reveals his deep love of theater as he shares his role in the planning and design of both new theaters in the Visual and Performing Arts Center.
I never thought I would be able to do this. You know, you're here in grad school, oh, read this book on planning a theater, but you never, how many directors get to even have a little input in? The black box, it was fun. I talked to you.
Call the second space.
With the second space. Yes, right. I loved it because, and I talked to you about this too, I could come from the cold of Elgin, from the winters here, or from the summer heat, or whatever, and go into that black box, and it's totally available for my mentality to stretch out in. And you allowed classes to be in there of mine off times. The other space, I think you, I, and John had talked about it, and I had expressed my vision to you of having vomitoria. So it was like a Shakespearean theater, and it had like the levels, and although it has a proscenium arch, the stage comes up and down, so you have lots of surrounding spaces. Probably the main thing for me was that ECC has kind of a song for me, kind of a melody. This room has a certain melody to it I really enjoy having taught here. You gave people a chance to expand, and that's what I want in the theater too. I want people to expand and be who they are. And this school allowed that because the people had good hearts. And I think ECC taught me that there are a whole lot of good-hearted people around who are not wishing you evil. And if they don't agree with you, they still love you. And I really appreciate that. I couldn't have asked for a finer school to be with.
And finally, Paul Dawson shares his early beliefs about community colleges compared to the quality of the faculty and facilities that he found when he came to Elgin Community College. Likewise, he talks about his pride in the people that he supervised as managing director of buildings and grounds at ECC and the hard work and quality that they exhibited.
I guess just as a general note, I was surprised by the quality of teachers. You know, when I was growing up and in high school, Ankeny's got a large community college. Des Moines area community college is right outside Ankeny. And, you know, I always thought that community colleges, you know, going to a large university like Iowa State, I kind of looked down my nose at community colleges, but I was totally wrong. Because I had, you know, 300 people in my sociology and psychology class. And here you have no more than 30 in your classes, and you have people with Ivy League degrees and people with Big Ten degrees, and they're with doctorate degrees, and you don't have labs taught by teaching assistants. You have your labs taught by the same people that teach your lectures. And, you know, we have better facilities than a lot of these colleges do. And I just feel bad that I had that feeling. And I think that that's something that I guess I'm sad that I didn't realize until I came here. The other thing is that the quality of people that I've supervised over the years, the custodians, the Jovel Villagomez, the Fidencio Felix Garcias, the Fernando Rios, the Raquel Herrera that worked, you know, 6 days a week as an administrator for me, the groundskeepers that come in at, you know, midnight and work, you know, 24 hours straight to clear the snow. It's just, it's something that they always made me look good. We won several awards, and we always had, in the employee surveys, we always had 95% to 96% satisfaction, actually good to excellent.
So what we would like to do now is to illustrate for you how a search through ECC's oral history archives would work. Using the address shown in black on the screen, you can go to the page where you can see all of the oral histories that our college has completed and are ready for viewing. Let's select Bud Wilson's oral history. Bring your cursor down to his name and click on it. You will note that it begins playing immediately. You can start and stop the video using the button on the lower left side of the screen.
This is an interview with E.C. Bud Wilson, former member of...
When you first stop the recording, you'll see other images. That's because the college is using YouTube as the home for our videos. When you X out of those images, you'll see a box with the words More Videos to the left, which you can again ignore at this point. Now let's navigate some of the controls at the bottom of the screen. Again, you can stop and start the video by using this button. Next is the control for the volume. Here you see the meter for time. On the right side is a button for full screen display. If you go to full screen and then later want to use any of the other features of this program, you'll want to use the escape key to come back to this screen. You can scroll down to see all of the segments of Mr. Wilson's oral history, from a segment on his personal background to his reflections on Elgin and the impact of the community college on the community.
For this illustration, we're selecting Description of Elgin in the 1960s. When we click on it, it opens up to show you more about what is in that segment. You'll see Play Segment, Segment Link, Partial Transcript, Segment Synopsis, and Keywords. Right now, let's focus on Segment Synopsis. This gives you a summary of what is discussed in this segment. Then, below it, are the keywords of people, places, and significant things that are specifically mentioned in this segment. The partial transcript is the sentence or partial sentence that begins the segment. Above the partial transcript, you'll see Play Segment and Segment Link. Both accomplish the same purpose, just using a different path. They both take you to that particular segment of the oral history. If you click on Play Segment, you go directly there.
Tell me what Elgin was like in 1960.
If you click on Segment Link, you are given in the box the link that you can then copy into your browser that would take you there directly. This way, if you have a particular segment that you want to bookmark, you can later go to it using this function. Now let's look on the right side of the screen. You'll see that the toggle is over to Index. This is the way that ECC has chosen to make the oral histories available to you. If you toggle to the left, Transcript, and if we had a transcript of the oral history, it would be shown on the left, the area that is currently blank. You can also see on the right side of the screen a way that you can search by keyword. If I use the search term Board of Trustees, we can see two segments which include the words Board of Trustees with the timestamps for each. Let's click on the second one, which is 27 minutes 16 seconds into the interview. You will note the search terms are highlighted in red. Again, you can click on Play Segment if you want to hear that segment.
Talked about, but Bob Hoffer, Harry Blizzard, all of those individuals brought different skills and talents to the board. Is that the kind of thing that you were thinking about as a U46 Board of Education?
This, in a nutshell, is how to navigate ECC's oral histories. We think you will agree that this search approach provides a way for all of us to research and appreciate our college's history. Enjoy.
Enjoy.